So I'm now in the last section drawing my flux. As I have shown you, I'm just alternating directions, but you can draw the way you wish to. You can just add tipples, or you can add some auras like this. Whatever you feel like, that's fine. Take your time. Very small, tiny spaces. You can insert some tipple. Yes. Now let us add the outermost outline of the tile of the Zentangle that we have drawn. Yes. So now the next step is to shade. So I'm adding some graphite in the center and at the edges of the innermost circle or orb that we started with. Yes. Blend only as much as is required because we need a center white highlight. Yes. So don't blend too much. Keep the center, keep a band white here. Yes, then it pops up. Next we come to these rice shapes. So I'm just going to add shadow on one side. Again, don't cover the entire thing. Leave some space white. Adding shadow on one side. If you want, you can also add some black inside there, so it gains little more prominence. For example, another rice shape with black inside this rice shape. I'm going to darken one side of this fragment. Some people keep asking me what pencil am I using. This is a handmade pencil and it's a normal HB pencil. You can also use 2B pencil, but it's a normal pencil. It's no special pencil, just that it's handmade, it's not machine made. I just feel they have a better graphite quality. You can use a normal HB or you can use a 2B at the max. Yes, and then we move on to the next. Again, I'm going to add shadow on one side. As I mentioned, if you want to add black, you can do that. So this time I'm going to the other side. Take your time, slowly shade, give it that time that it deserves, don't haste up. Once you start to enjoy shading, you will actually feel like completing the tangling part quickly and then quickly move on to shading. Yes, because it brings your tile to life. So you want to quickly switch to shading. And this tangle cubine now attains dimension. Yes, they look like hollow. Yes. So that's the beauty of this tangle. Cubine, once you shade, looks absolutely stunning. Assumes that third dimension and looks like windows, panes. Yes, take your time, slowly. Almost covering one part of the cubine with grey and leaving the upper part the way it is. Yes, you can also shade it differently by adding darker graphite on one side and then lighter graphite on the other side. But spaces are small here. I don't want to make entire thing grey. So I'm sticking to minimalistic shading. Yes, we are done with that. If you want, we can add a slight touch here, a very soft touch, not much. Something like this. Not really going to blend much. So just do as you feel like as far as shading is concerned. As I mentioned, there are other possibilities. Depends on what time of day, what tangles you have used, the combination of tangles, the joining tangles. Yes. Almost done with my innermost tile. Yes. Now moving on to the next. So the grid is where you shade. So they will look like folds. Again, don't blend too much because you have small spaces there. And you have to add graphite on both ends. So keep it simple. So you're adding graphite on both ends, and that's why you just have to add little and blend a little. Yes, so I'm talking about these white highlights. They should show, and they will show only when you blend only as much as is required. Yes, so that's a simple fragment derived from the Wells grid. At times what is already there on your stub is sufficient to add that touch of graphite. Don't need to add more. Yes, so blend. So that's about the second square tile. Moving on to the third. Again adding graphite here. We will highlight that place with our black also, the watercolor, but still I'm adding some bit of graphite there. Make sure you have a center white here, right? So again, spaces are small, so you need to just add little graphite at the edges and blend very little, else the whole of it flux will go gray. So almost using the tip of my blending stub and just softening the graphite. Yes, going to the third. Take your time, do it at your own pace. You can skip that part of shading if you want, this part of shading, because as I mentioned, we will be doing it with our watercolor also. If you want to do it with me, you can. So by now I hope you got a hang of this concept, tile on tile, how you can draw beautiful overlapping tiles, create beautiful zia using this concept. Yes, again adding on both sides of the white portion. Take your time, add very little. So these portions, sometimes what is there on your stub, it's sufficient to add that much of graphite. So when you blend, make sure this white is intact. That's the highlight. Yes. So blend as much as is necessary. Take your time, go around. So I'm done with shading my marasu also. Now is the time for the gray watercolor. Yes. So let's add. Make sure it is absolutely sharp. You don't want to add extra. Yes. So just outlining the innermost tile first. Take your time, slowly go around the round tile that you drew, the smaller Zendala. Yeah, so that's the first one. Going to the next, the square. Again, adding some dark watercolor pencil there. Make sure you don't add too much also. But yes, the overlaps will show only when there is an extra darkness underneath, just like a shadow. Yes, and probably you can add some here also. So before we go ahead and color our background, I'm just adding a thin layer of my gray watercolor here also. You can do this exercise with your brush pen, gray brush pen, as I've done in the previous sessions. This one I'm adding watercolor pencil, so no hard and fast rules there. You can use a whole lot of tools to get the same effect. If you have a darker pencil, you can use that. Generally we don't use darker pencils for Zentangle, so gray watercolor pencils come handy. Yes, and then your water brush or the normal brush, whatever you have, Make sure the brush is wet, and then you just have to blend very little. Don't spread it too much. Just kind of blend it where it is without blending or spreading it too much. Yeah. So you get that beautiful extra dark kind of an effect. Something lying over something. The overlap, the shadow. Yes, that's the first one. Going to the second. Again, as I mentioned, you can omit shading these sections if you want, or as I did, you can shade and then again do the second round with your watercolor. Take your time. Do at your own pace, slowly. Don't blend too much. Just a little touch is all you need with your brush. Yes, and finally this one. Just a soft blend. Yeah. So now comes the rest of the tile. So it is entirely up to you. Now if you want to add some highlights here and there, you may do that. For example, here you can add some white chalk. You can also add some chalks here, some touches on the flux, but these are optional. You may not do it. It's not going to show too much, but yes, it is going to add some bit of white, extra white there. So if you wish, you can do that. But for that, it's necessary that you have not added graphite all over. Yes, then only you can highlight the whites. If you want, you can run over these. There's already a highlight, but if you want, you can run over it again. Like this with your chalk. Yes. So now I'm going to use again a brush pen, a light green kind of a shade. It says, I don't know, some color, ice green. Yes, it's a nice light shade of green, and I'm going to add it in the background. Slowly, take your time. No signs there, just simple coloring. Use your watercolor pencil if you don't have a brush pen handy. Anything to color the background. Just that you use things that don't spoil your work over a period of time and remains as such. That's the only concern. Yes. So I come back in a jiffy, just ink, color. Yeah. Almost done there. Now you can leave it as such, or if you want to draw something in the background, you can do that also. So I'm not going to draw, but yes, I have my gold jelly roll here handy. So probably I will add some simple dots. Add a little gloss and glitter to my background. Yes. So simple dots there. You can also add some hollis if you want to the background. So just some simple golden dots. Yes, looks dressy. You want to give a touch of gold here if you want. Yeah, some zen there. So that's it. I'm done with drawing my golden dots. Looks quite dressy. Yes. So let us close our tile here for today. I'm going to put in my chop. You can do it on the tiles, or you can put it here wherever you feel like. Right, so I shall see you again with one more last session of this tile on tile series. Have a good time. Bye bye.